What's up, humankind? So today we're talking about face pulls. Now this is a long-awaited video, and to make things interesting, I thought I would compare the technique of Athlean-x, aka Jeff Cavaliere, and Mike Israetel of Renaissance Periodization, because their technique is quite different, and I thought it would be interesting to just compare it. So the way Jeff Cavaliere recommends doing these is in a very externally rotating, focused way. So you're not focused on pulling straight back, you're focused on externally rotating at the shoulder. You're focused on strengthening that rotator cuff. So he recommends taking an overhand grip and pulling like this. So you're focused on this external rotation. And you want to have the cable about head height or a little bit higher in order to supplement that action. On the other hand, Mike recommends taking a lower attachment, and so you're pulling more upwards and focused on pulling almost straight back. So you're not just focused on externally rotating at the shoulder. It's not this action, but it's actually just pulling straight back. So you're getting the side delts involved, the rear delts involved, as well as the traps and the rhomboids. So he's using it not as an external rotator prehab type of movement, but just as a muscle builder. Completely different goals. Now, one thing that I completely disagree with Jeff Cavaliere on, and I have seen repeatedly on his channel, is the vilification of certain exercises or of certain ways of doing certain exercises.
Sometimes people taking this thing from a low position. The problem with low is it's literally setting up the wrong mechanics of the exercise. You don't pull from low to high. You saw Jesse doing this. We call it the upright pull or whatever it is. It's horrible for your shoulder. You're basically performing an upright row instead of a face pull. People say, I'm never sure if I'm supposed to stand square or if I'm supposed to stand like this or if I'm supposed to put my leg up on something. No, you don't want to do that. You want to stand square if at all possible.
The rope face pull, you really want to think of this as a high row, and this is the main multi-joint movement of this tri-set. So you want to go fairly heavy here and maybe use your foot as support against the upright so you don't have to worry about any balance issues when loading heavily. And your goal is going to be hitting really everything that's back there. So the rear delts, the traps, and the rhomboids. So don't be afraid to squeeze your shoulder blades together hard on every rep.
No.
So for him, any other way rather than his way is wrong. And I find that to be wrong. And there are lots of ways to do this movement. This is like going up to someone who is doing a close grip bench press and saying, hey man, you're doing it wrong. You'd get way more chest activation if you widened your grip. You're doing it wrong and you're killing your gains. Well, have you ever thought that maybe they aren't targeting the chest? Maybe they're trying to build up some fucking huge triceps instead? So, if you want to use this as a muscle builder, I would do it the Mike Israetel way. So go a little bit heavier and pull directly back. You're not just focused on this type of action, you're just pulling straight back. Now this is going to work the rear delts, especially if you flare your elbows a little bit and you pull a little bit lower. It's going to work your side delts. If you pull a little bit higher, you should get a pretty wicked contraction if you pull slightly up and back. It can work your traps, especially if you're focused on squeezing back with the scapula. It's going to work a little bit more upper traps if you squeeze back a little bit like this, a little bit more mid traps if you squeeze straight back. And it can even work lower traps if you set the attachment very, very high and you're focused on more pulling down. So it's a very versatile exercise. And the rhomboids are using this exercise to target the rhomboids. Oh, come on, that was good. That was good. Get it? Like range of motion boys, Renaissance Periodization, like they're men, and they use full range of motion, and it's the rhomboids. God damn it. Now, a few different variations you can do. You can use a band, but I find this to be mildly pointless if you have a cable at the ready, just because it increases the strength curve to the point where it's most difficult in the contracted position, where it's already most difficult. So basically, this makes 80% or 90% of the range of motion pretty much useless. You can also use a rope. Actually, Jeff Cavaliere has a good hack where you use 2 ropes in order to get more range of motion. If you're using just one short rope attachment, sometimes it can feel a little bit constricting, so that's a good hack, a good tip from him. If he says something good, I'll give him credit. If he says something stupid, I won't. My preferred way is to grip it in an overhand way. So I put the little, the ball.
Yes, that's right. But I think it's in my other pants pocket.
Of the cable in between my fingers and just pull straight back like that. It's not as externally rotator focused as grabbing like this. But again, I'm not using it as a pure prehab exercise. I'm using it as part prehab, part upper back and shoulder developer. You can also use handles. I find this actually to be the best way, especially if the handles are a little bit longer, just because you have more freedom of movement. You can rotate at the wrist and at the shoulder a little bit more easily, and it just feels a little bit smoother.
The balls are inert.
Wait a second.
Next, the direction of pull. Now, Cavaliere is also very narrow-minded in this regard. He says, like, you can only pull in a certain way, but that's not the case. A face pull is just pulling something to your face. You can pull it to the beard if you have one. You know, it gives me a little bit of extra range of motion, because it's part of my face, I guess, at least for now. You can pull to the chin, to the lips, to the nose, to the eyes, the eyebrows, the forehead, the hair. If you're Goku, you can pull even higher.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
It really just depends. It's going to target the back a little bit differently. And try this on for size. Every set, you can pull to a different area. Heck, this is going to piss a lot of people off. Every rep, you can pull to a different area. So you can do a few reps to the chin, a few reps to the forehead, a few reps wherever you want. Okay, it's going to work the back in a slightly different way. The upper back is very, very complex, and there's no point in just doing an exercise always the same way, especially if you're doing it for prehab, because you want to strengthen all those areas and target them in a slightly different way. So you can do a few where you're like externally rotating, you can do a few where it's more side delt, more rear delt, more traps. You can do a few where it's only partial range of motion, you're just contracting in the last part of the range of motion. You can do a few where you really round the upper back, you're training those lower traps, you're getting into an internally rotated position. Yes, that's fine. Just because you're internally rotated doesn't mean you're ripping your shoulders to pieces. In fact, that's a good way to train your external rotators, by getting internally rotated and then externally rotating. You're getting more range of motion for those muscles. You can also experiment with different heights. Set it high, set it middle around the hips, set it low near the feet. Yes, the last one is somewhat similar to an upright row, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about it, it's just a continuum. So very low, and you're standing close, is basically just a cable upright row. Very high, and you're standing far away, that's more akin to a Jeff Cavaliere style of face pull. Find what works for you. Experiment with your training. Don't just blindly listen to anyone on the internet, even me. So in conclusion, who is correct? Well, they're both correct. It depends on your goals, it depends on your anatomy, it depends on how you want to set things up. Don't just blindly listen to anyone. Take control and take responsibility for your training. All right, that's all for today. Like, share, subscribe, notifications, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.